Y'all, today we are going to be talking about a man that killed several young men for a decade. I'm not talking about one. I'm not talking about two or three. I'm talking about 23 young men. Yes, 23. Hey y'all, how are y'all today? It's me, Anne Marie, the Cajun crime queen from Carrincville, Louisiana. Cajun born, Cajun bred, and when I die, I'll be Cajun dead. How are y'all doing today on this wonderful Wicked Wednesday? I hope y'all having an amazing day. I hope y'all have a snuggle partner, a snuggle fur partner, or y'all just coming to hang out with me, yours truly, Anne Marie. I kind of want to talk about something before we get into today's serial killer. I want to know, why are these children walking around with hoodies in Louisiana? I'm over here like suffocating, dying, can't even walk outside. And I go pick up my daughter from school and I'm thinking she's the only one with a hoodie. Like, where you going with your hoodie? But all the children are coming out with hoodies. Am I the only one? Are y'all kids wearing hoodies? It is the weirdest thing. We're hot, but they're not. It's kind of crazy. I got a haircut this week. My hair feels so much better. I know y'all can't really tell, but I have very long, very thick hair, and I cut like 8 inches off, which it feels healthier now. Anyway, let's get into it. Today we are talking about serial killer Ronald Dominque, aka the Bayou Strangler from Thibodaux, Louisiana. Ronald was born January 9th, 1964 in Thibodaux, Louisiana. He had a childhood that was a lot of poverty. His parents were labor workers. He grew up in a town of bayous, swamps, a lot of rural area. When Ronald was a child, he was teased a lot because he liked to play with the girls instead of the boys. So his father and Ronald didn't really have the relationship that a father and son should have, because Ronald liked to be more with his mother and the girls. When Ronald was young, he had several brothers and sisters. One day, his father walked in the house and said, "I think your mother's having an affair." Loaded the children in the car, drove to Ronald's mother's brother's house, Ronald's uncle, and found his mother and her brother in bed having relations. If y'all know what I mean, I'm not going to get into it. That was extremely traumatizing to Ronald as a child. I don't know what kind of person would put their children, because the brothers and sisters were there, in that situation to see their mother like that. After that, Ronald really didn't see his mom as perfect anymore, but he leaned on his mom for support because he didn't have a good relationship with his dad. When Ronald went to high school at Thibodaux High, he met a girl. They were just friends, nothing. They would eat together. They would buy a bag of chips and share. They would talk. They would hang out. They would have fun. Ronald was a loner because he didn't really have friends. He was bullied. He couldn't fit in any type of community. He was constantly feeling left out. Well, it was time for homecoming. We all know how homecoming is. Great, wonderful. He asked his best friend, "Hey, let's go to homecoming as friends." A lot of us do that. Let's just go hang out, dance, have fun with our friends, have a good old time. Well, when they got to homecoming, she kind of thought it was funny that Ronald never asked her to dance. She was like, "What is going on?" The whole time they were at homecoming, he danced with a man. He was having a good old time, swinging. Yo, I remember those days at homecoming. Mambo number 5. No, I'm just joking. I'm showing my age now. Well, when Ronald got back to school on Monday, everyone was teasing him, especially the boys in the locker room, knocking him down, bullying him because he danced with a man. Now, as a lot of y'all know, in the 80s, you couldn't be really comfortable with your sexuality and who you wanted to be like we can now. Now it's great, it's wonderful, love whoever, be yourself. It wasn't like that back then. So Ronald had to hide a lot. He couldn't be himself to everyone. Well, in 1983, the best year ever, I was born. Just joking. He graduated from Thibodeau High. After graduation, he got a job, he started working, he was still a loner. What Ronald decided was he wanted to be a part of the gay community. So Ronald started dressing up in drag, singing, performing. He loved Patti LaBelle. I love her as well. Great. I just love the 80s. Well, as Ronald was performing, he was booed off the stage. They said he was horrible. They made fun of him. He was bullied. Now, y'all, remember, Ronald couldn't fit in his opinion, in the straight community. But now he's realizing, I can't fit in the gay community. So I have nowhere to go in this world. He became extremely, extremely lonely. It was sad because he just couldn't be himself like he wanted. In 1996, Ronald decided to buy himself his own trailer, which is wonderful, y'all. It's a huge accomplishment, just like us. When I bought my first house when I was 25, it was amazing. It was wonderful. Ronald was excited. He moved his trailer on his sister's property. He had a good little job. He went to work. He didn't have really that many friends, but he was still normal, loving, caring, tender, as his friend described him. He was a normal, caring man. But one day in 1996, a young man walked into the police station and said that he was SA'd by Ronald. The police go to Ronald's house. They arrest him. While awaiting trial, Ronald is in custody. While Ronald is in custody, a very, very, very traumatizing event happened. What happened? I'm going to let y'all read about it. I'm going to let y'all do your own research. I don't want to talk about it, but it's something that traumatized Ronald for the rest of his life. Ronald stayed in jail for 3 months. His incident caused him to be hospitalized. In 3 months, they let him out of jail. Why? I know a lot of y'all, just like me, I'm like, why they let him out of jail? He SA'd someone. Well, his victim didn't show up for court, so they couldn't have a trial. There was no victim. So Ronald's released. Very bad thing. Very bad thing after Ronald was released. In July of 1997, a body was found in a drainage canal. Very, very traumatizing. His pants were pulled down to his ankles. He was face down. Cause of death was drowning. Now, as y'all know, a lot of canals aren't that deep. So the police were kind of stuck with, this person just didn't come over here and drown, did they? Their pants are by their ankles. They don't have shoes on. But the cause of death was drowning. There wasn't any type of struggling. It was just drowning. But they knew it was suspicious. He was dumped. Looks like it was a secondary crime scene, meaning he was killed somewhere else than the dump site. Couple of months later, another body's found, dumped. But this time, the body has marks, ligature marks on the ankles. The victim was strangled. They were stuck. The police were stuck again. The police didn't really connect them, but they didn't disconnect them. Because remember, the first victim was drowning. This one was obviously killed because there was signs of strangulation. Here they were again. What is going on? But they didn't think it was a serial killer. Even though they were similar, they weren't the same. Ronald's first victim did not have a high-risk lifestyle. He didn't travel in a way that would put him at risk. But they Couldn't figure out what happened to him. There was no drugs in his system, no drugs to be found. The only thing they were figuring out was, how is all of this happening? Who is doing this to these victims? They couldn't figure it out. 7 months later, another body's dumped. Cause of death, strangulation. At this point, they knew they were dealing with a serial killer. At this point, they said another body was found dumped, another male, something's up. Couple of months later, a fourth victim. But the good thing about the fourth victim was they found a male Caucasian hair on his body. They got the hair, they sent it to the DNA lab. Nothing came up as a match. So they were saying, we're kind of at a standstill again. We don't have anybody. He's not in the system. And now, when you get arrested, now they take your DNA. They take it right away. Back then, they didn't. So they didn't have Ronald's DNA available to them. Nobody in the system. A couple of months later, another body. A couple of months later, another body. What they found extremely weird was all of these young men, well-built, tall, young, there was no signs of a struggle. There were no marks, there were no fighting, there was no sign of a struggle. There was no sign of anything happening to them. So they thought, why aren't these men fighting back? What are they doing to just get murdered and dumped with no signs of a struggle? The police knew this had to stop. They knew it was just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So they decided to get more patrol cars. They were patrolling by the dump sites. They were patrolling at night. They were trying to catch this serial killer. The police wanted to figure out why these men were getting dumped and who. Now, a young man by the name of Ricky Wallace was walking down the road. Oh, I didn't tell you all that. I completely forgot about that. Ronald's victims, most of them were hitchhikers. They asked for rides. They traveled on foot. They had high-risk lifestyles. Some of them were homeless. They would have done anything for money, basically, at this time. Some of them. Ricky Wallace was walking down the street. A pickup truck drives by and says, "Hey, you need a ride?" And Ricky's like, "Sure, yeah." Well, Ronald shows Ricky a picture of a beautiful young lady and says, "Hey, you want to go back to my house? My wife likes to have sex with other men in front of me, and I'll pay you." To these guys, they just wanted money. Plus, they get to make love to a beautiful woman. It was a win-win for them. They were like, fine, awesome, wonderful. Yes. He gets to Ronald's trailer, and Ronald says, "Listen, my wife was SA'd. She doesn't like to be around someone when they're not tied up because she's scared. Do you mind if I tie you up?" He said, "What? You ain't tying me up. Oh no, you better bring me home to where I was. You better drop me off because nobody's tying me up." No. Ronald kind of tries to talk to him. He said, "No, it doesn't matter. I'm not getting tied up. That's the bottom line," which he was smart. He's like, this doesn't seem right. Ronald gets in the car, decides to take him back. He kept reaching on the side of the truck. And Ricky told him, "I don't know what you got over there, but I'm going to break this bottle over your head if you do that again." Ronald stopped. He dropped Ricky off where he picked him up. That was the end of it. A couple of months later, Ricky was having these dreams of being tied up, of being traumatized. So Ricky decides to speak to his parole officer and say, "Look, I have this incident. I've been having bad dreams about it. I've been having nightmares. I need to talk to you about it." He told his parole officer about the incident. The parole officer immediately said, "Hey, do you know where this trailer was?" Ricky said, "Absolutely. I know exactly where it is." They go to it. They're surveillance it. They see this meek, normal, heavy-set, short man went to work and came home every day. They knocked on his door, the popos, and said, "Hey, we need to talk to you about a situation." They brought him to the police station. He denied everything. "I don't know what you're talking about. I just go to work and I go home. That's it. I have nothing to do with this." He agreed to give them his DNA. Now, DNA is not like it is today where you can go and in a couple of hours it's back. Back then they had to wait. Well, while they were waiting, Hurricane Katrina came. And she came with a vengeance. Very, very scary. It set them back a little bit. But once they got the DNA back, that's when they noticed it was Ronald Dominque's. It was a match. Ricky Wallace identified him, identified the truck, the trailer, everything. That was it. Done. A couple of days before Ronald was arrested, Ronald had a heart attack. When they arrested Ronald, he was living in a shelter. Now, the reason why I think Ronald was living in a shelter was because he knew the gig was up. He was done. They were coming, and he knew they were coming, so I think he was trying to hide, but they found him. Anyway, he admitted everything to where their bodies were, where they were picked up, how they died, why they died, and why he did not go back to jail. He would study his victims, and if they were homosexual, he would offer them money to go back to his house to have relations. If they were straight, he would show the picture of the lady and say, "Hey, my wife wants to have sex with other men. Come back and I'm going to give you all kind of money." These men would do anything for money. They said, okay. I also couldn't figure out, how is Ronald, who's 5'4", 5'5", 250 pounds, picking up these well-built, big young men? How is he doing that? And how is he killing them? He admitted he would tie them up. They think, they don't know, some of them, when they would get into the trailer, he would push them, put his knee on their back, put the extension cord around their neck. They couldn't figure out how Ronald was putting these men in his vehicle and then taking them out and dumping them. Well, in my opinion, as y'all know, a lot of us, when we're mad or when we're happy or when we have all this adrenaline rushing and we feel strong and powerful, we do things that we don't realize we can do. I think Ronald killing men gave him this high. And I think this high for Ronald gave him the adrenaline to know, I have all this power. Look what I did. And he had enough strength and enough adrenaline running through his body that he picked up these men, placed them in his truck, and drove around and dumped them. He also would meet men at bars, bring them back to his car. They would have relations, and some of them he would hit with a tire iron. The good thing about Ronald, not like Derek Todd Lee, but we're not going to go into him, Ronald admitted everything. And while Ronald admitted everything, he had a lot of remorse. And he said he was scared. He was frightened. He thought they were going to kill him, so he killed them first, which I don't believe that. In my opinion, I don't believe none of that. I do not believe that. I think Ronald wanted to do this. I think he was a serial killer. Well, obviously he was a serial killer. I think that he wanted this power. He wanted to be in control, and he didn't want to go back to jail. So what does he do? He essays these men, kills them, dumps them, done. Ronald was sentenced to life in prison. He's in Angola, serving his life sentence. He is very quiet. He minds his business. He's a loner. On a final note, I want everyone to stop and say to themselves, no matter what, be you, people. All my loves, I love y'all so much. Be yourself. Be who you want to be. Don't worry about everybody else. Don't worry if everybody's going to look at you different. Be who you want to be, who you are inside. I always say to my man, you are the only one that knows me for me. And he always says yes. But Ronald felt that he couldn't be himself with people because he was gay. Nowadays, you can be yourself. You can be who you want to be. Ronald couldn't. My heart goes out to these 23 victims. I think it's very, very sad that it took 23 victims before Ronald was caught. But I do thank the police department because they did try everything they could. But these men a lot of them are just too decomposed. No evidence. I want to thank y'all so much for watching my video. I hope y'all like, subscribe, comment. Tell me about y'all day. Tell me anything y'all want to tell me in the comments. And also, y'all drop some people below that y'all want me to discuss. Message me. I just want to tell y'all again, thank y'all and I love y'all. If it wasn't for y'all listening and tuning in with me, I wouldn't be having fun like I am right now with y'all. I hope y'all have a great night. I hope y'all have a great weekend. And I hope y'all tune in to me next week. Next week, the person I'm talking about, y'all get ready. I wanted to do this serial killer next after Derek Todd Lee. There is so much on him. It is crazy. The book is 500 pages. I have to do all this research. I have to go to Baton Rouge and go see where he lived. Y'all tune in because this is a serial killer that made me completely speechless. He gave me the chills, especially when he would talk about it. Y'all have a great night. Love y'all. Bye.